So I have been working essentially on, it's a nonfiction book. So that means that it's like, it's just kind of like me talking. It's not like a story necessarily. And I have essentially been working on it for like 2 years or so now, at least the proposal. So to get a nonfiction book sold to a publisher, and you don't have to have a publisher to write a book, but for me and what I wanted to do, I wanted to kind of have a wide reach, and I didn't want to have to put any of my own money into it. There are lots of pros and cons to getting a book sold versus self-publishing. And there are lots of different ways to make a book happen. But this was the way I went about doing this one. So I have a book agent. So I got a book agent 3 or 4 years ago now. Originally, I was trying to write and sell a picture book. And that hasn't happened yet, but hopefully it will. It's very hard to sell a picture book. But after, so 2019, I gave a TED Talk on the importance of talking to kids about gender and sexuality. And people really liked the TED Talk, which was really cool. And I thought that it could be a really good kind of outline for a nonfiction book. To a nonfiction book, essentially giving just like a lot more space to the topic that I was talking about, because the TED Talk is only 6 minutes. So that's like 6 minutes of a talk versus like a book that's going to take someone like maybe a couple hours to like a couple days to read, right? So you have a lot more stuff that you could just put into a book, right? A lot more information, a lot more conversations that you can have. So I was working on the proposal for a while with my agent, and we went out with it. It went through a lot of different versions, especially during the pandemic. We were working on it a bunch, going back and forth over it. It's really hard to write a nonfiction proposal because you're essentially just kind of putting your ideas on the paper without like a lot of feedback from publishers. So that's the people you're trying to sell to, right? And you don't really know what they want. And I'd never written a book before. Books are hard to write. So so we were going back and forth on the proposal for a while. It had a lot of different versions of it. And then we kind of finally nailed down on one version, and we sent it out. My agent sent it out to a bunch of different editors that they knew. Sorry about that. And we sent that out in January to a bunch of different editors that my agent knew, and we got a lot of no's on the proposal. But there was one editor, actually two editors, who really liked it, but didn't like it as it was. So they gave us a bunch of notes. And so I went back and we did a revision on the proposal, and we sent that back to that editor, kind of restructuring the idea, how they kind of thought it would work better. And then we ended up selling it to them in like that form. So it's a long process to get a book to happen. And so now I've been writing it since March. I'm like halfway through the word count. I'm doing, it's going to be about 60,000 words. So that's a lot of words. It's a really big project. It's definitely the longest thing I've ever written. And right now I'm doing interviews with lots of people, setting up interviews with folks, people who are teachers and librarians and authors, and people who are like queer people who are experts in talking to kids and young people about these topics, and getting just a lot of different perspectives on these ideas. So yeah, it's a long thing, and my deadline's in September, so it's coming up soon. But it's going to be coming out in fall 2022.